Hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters. I am Jennifer and this is my knitting and nattering video podcast. I apologize if it's a little hard to understand me today. I do have a head cold. Those of you who have watched my podcast before know that head colds are a thing that happens. Sorry, that was a wee bird overhead. A crow. We have lots of crows. I feed the crows. We have a little family of 3 crows that I feed. They're such clever, intelligent birds. I don't know why some people don't like them. I mean, obviously they don't have pretty voices, but that's not their fault. I don't have a very pretty voice either, so not one of my standards for liking a bird. Hi, I'm Jennifer, and this is my podcast where I natter on mostly about my knitting. Today is the 2nd of September. It has been about 3 weeks since my last podcast, for which I apologize. I'm hoping, now that my youngest is in nursery and my oldest is back in school, this is their 4th week. It's been almost a month of being back at school, that I will be able to do this on a more regular basis. Every other Tuesday, I think, will work really well for me, which would have been yesterday, the 1st of September, except I have a cold. They have colds. They were both home from school yesterday. I don't think they really needed to be. I think it was an excess of caution to keep them home. But I do have a cold and they were home, and so I wasn't able to record yesterday, but I'm trying to squeeze it in today. I've only got about half an hour before I have to go start collecting them. The oldest one walks home from school by herself, but I do have to go to the nursery to pick up the youngest one. So let's see what we can get done. It is a bit windy out there. I think you can, like if you look over here, you can kind of see the trees swaying a bit. So if you can hear the sound of the trees, then I'm sorry. The weather is as the weather is. Hi. First things first, I do have a finished object and I am wearing it, and you can't see it. The interesting bit is down at the bottom. It has this beautiful cable at the bottom. This is kind of the more accurate purple, the more bluey purple. It has this beautiful cable at the bottom. It is an oversized, slightly cropped, boxy pullover called Abbeyhill by YSOLDA TEAGUE. I knit this as a test knit, so I received the pattern for free. I was offered a discount on buying the yarn the pattern was knit in, but the yarn was being revamped by the company that makes it. It's written for TEAGUE wool sock yarn, which is a heavy 4-ply kind of sport weighty yarn, and it was being revamped, and then the price was going to go up a little. So at the time, most of the colors that were in stock were all kind of shades of oatmeal, the natural tones, browns and taupes and that kind of stuff, and a few earthier greens and stuff. Not colors that suit me at all. They do come in like some beautiful teals and purples and reds and colors that I would prefer, but they didn't have a sweater quantity of any of those colors in stock. But I did have in my stash, I had this beautiful Cochrane, Ripples Crafts Cochrane, which is a heavy 4-ply sport weight kind of yarn. It has been discontinued, and in fact I bought it in various batches as money allowed. And this was Helen of Ripples Crafts 10-year anniversary yarn, which I knit a shawl in. And because it's a slightly heavier 4-ply than the pattern was written for, it came out much bigger, and I find it's not a very wearable one. I mean, I drape it on my shoulders occasionally, but it's not something I really can move around a lot in. So I bought some more yarn to get up to a sweater quantity, and because this is a hand-dyed yarn, the colors weren't precisely the same. But I wound up, I actually had enough to knit this without having to unravel the shawl. So I still have the shawl, And now I have a full size, a wonderful, cozy, soft, cuddly jumper that I adore. Well, the other thing is, having completed the test knit, I should get a gift card for YSOLDA TEAGUE's web shop. So yeah, that's got the pattern for free, should be receiving a gift card, knit the pattern. All my opinions are my own and I love it. And there were a few changes made, but it wasn't based on fit. It was just based on the math hadn't lined up properly across all the sizes. And it's wonderful. A few people have said they'll make them, a few people did make it slightly longer. A few people said they'll make it even, you know, next time they knit it, they would make it longer. I really like the size as written. It is kind of high hip, whereas most of the jumpers I knit for myself tend to be further down. But it's a good one for over like a fitted waistline or a dress, a skirt, that kind of stuff. So I have found it immensely wearable. It is the 2nd of September and I have worn it a lot already. I mean, I finished it 2 weeks ago. That was the first thing. It was like, I was up to the yoke and then I was going to have to rip back the yoke and reknit the yoke again because the numbers had changed. I believe that's where I was last time we spoke. So I finished it and I washed it and I blocked it and I took some pictures. I am really bad at taking pictures. I'm trying with the timer, but I'm not. I mean, my camera's not great and my pictures aren't great. But I did take some pictures, including some of myself in a sitting down, so that wheelchair users or those knitting for people who use wheelchairs can see what it looks like on a sitting down body. I have heard more than one occasion people have mentioned it'd be really useful when looking at sweaters to know how it fits when you're sitting down. None of the pictures I took of me sitting down are particular, like, of the pictures, those are some of the worst, but I did try. So if that is something of interest to you, I do have those pictures. I have uploaded my bad pictures onto Ravelry, and I'm going to do a blog post for this, which is one of my other news. I've reawoken my blog post, not my blog post, my blog, which is norm.blogger.com. Old school, back when we trusted Google. Yeah, that seems pretty old. I hadn't updated in 2 years, basically since my baby, who is now 3.5, since she started getting up and running, I didn't have time to type anymore, which is kind of also shortly before I started recording my vlog, so that I had was just an easier way to do it when she was napping, and then she stopped napping and these became erotic too. So I brushed that off. I will do a blog post specifically about this jumper. The pattern comes out, I believe, next Tuesday. I believe the 8th, which I believe is next Tuesday. I recommend it. I think it's wonderful. I think it fits really well. I knit, I believe it was size 7, but I knit the size that was 3 inches of positive ease for my full bust, which works out to be 8 inches of positive ease for my upper bust. So I feel that gives me a boxy, oversized fit without being simply enormous. As a person with a very large bust, things can so easily become enormous. Like if the positive ease is based on someone with standard measurements, which would be a B cup, which is not the standard body shape, that is standard measurements, then that same amount of ease on someone with a larger bust simply becomes overwhelming, in my opinion. So I've got 8 inches of positive ease for most of my measurements, but it's only 3 inches of positive ease around my full bust. And it's cozy and snuggly. I've worn it a lot because this is summer in Scotland. It is cold enough to wear a very warm, cozy, snuggly jumper, at least in the mornings. So yeah, I love it. I love the yarn, which is discontinued. Excuse me. I would knit it again, although there are so many jumpers out there that I don't really see myself doing it anytime soon, but I could see having this in like a dark cranberry red. I would love having that, so maybe I need to do a dark cranberry red jumper in a similar shape, just a different pattern, but we'll see. Yeah, I highly recommend it if you want to pick it up next week, either as a kit, including the wool. The people who did use the recommended yarn really liked it. But yeah, very nice. So snuggly, so pleased. What do I have next? I have works in progress. I had this all set up and then my husband came in for lunch, so I kind of shunted it all to the side, and now he's doing something in the other room. So I've got a little bit of time, so I'm just trying to get this in. So I was organized and now I am not again. Oh dear, I started a new row on this. I have worked on, so I finished this. That was the main thing I worked on. And then I worked on a project I can't show you because it is a gift knit. It's not even knitting. It's a gift project that I am hoping to have finished soon. I will take a picture when it's done. But I have worked on my Bon Omi shawl, which is, it's knit as a triangle up to this point, and then half the stitches are put on hold, and then you knit one side on the bias. I am almost, not quite, but I am not very far from doing the triangle at this end to round out this end of the rectangle, and then it'll be time to pick up the stitches on this side and knit the other way. And this is my stitch marker, and this is a stay home, stay safe, which is the coronavirus logo for staying home and staying safe, of which, as you all know if you've seen this before, I am a huge proponent of just not leaving your house at all unless you absolutely have to. Yes, we have sent our children to school. The numbers here in Scotland are fairly low. It is a considered, looking at where we live and the situation here, not a big danger. So yes, stay home. Don't go out unless you have to. Wear a mask if you do have to go out. And this is a pattern by Sarah Hatton from the Something to Knit Together collection, using the Arnold color for Something to Knit with 4-ply. Sorry about that. That's just my husband going back out. He needs to borrow my laptop for something for later, so he was getting it all set up, and now he's going back out to work in his office in the garden, which does make it easier for us to stay home and stay safe. I recognize I am saying that from an immense position of privilege, that we can do that, and we live in a very safe part of the world. No, there's a cat meowing. I wonder if they'll figure out how to open the door. Libby can open the door. It's not shut all the way. She can pull it open. Oliver opens the door by sitting on the other side and meowing until I come and let him in. One moment, sorry about that. It was Oliver who wanted in. This is my fluffy Gingy, who is fluffy and wonderful, and anyone who owns a Gingy will know just how nice they are. But he did want me to come and open the door for him, and then he stood there until I picked him up. He didn't come in and sit down. He just said, I'm going to stand here and lean against your legs. Sorry, I'm having a wee bit of trouble breathing. But yes, I've been working on my Bon Ami shawl as one of my main knits for the last couple of days, and it's gotten big enough that I have moved it to my Cats in Trees bag. Ta-da! Which is one of my medium large, let's call it large, one of my larger knitting project bags. It actually holds a lot more than it looks like. I'm trying to do this one-handed because I'm holding Oliver like a baby in my other hand. It has this drawing portion that goes up, so you can have it quite overfilled and still fit things in and seal it up and everything. But for this project, I'm just using it as kind of a market bag style. So yeah, I've been working on that a lot. The progress keeper shows how much since the last time I showed it. So that's the main thing I've done. The other thing is having cast off a jumper, which amazingly was my third jumper this summer. Although one of them I did start back in October. Having cast off three jumpers this summer, I decided to cast on another one. And I cannot access my notes right now. So this is let me just scooch Oliver so that he doesn't fall off if I let go of him. The pattern name is very specific. It is the Simple Summer Tweed Top-Down V-Neck by HEIDI KIRRMAIER. Apologize if I get that wrong. I don't know how to pronounce that. I think it might be a Dutch name, guessing from the languages the pattern is available on. And this is a very simple pattern. It does not have a lot of details. She does recommend it is for people who have knit a jumper before. It has vague instructions for people who want a female fitted one with waist shaping versus a more male straight up and down proportions. So this is what I've done. This is all since last time you saw me. I have modified the instructions. Say if you want a deeper V-neck, do them less frequently. So I've done a deeper V-neck, and now having finished a ball below where I have split, it's the opposite of splitting, where I have put the sleeves on waist yarn, then I'm going and knitting the sleeve, because then I don't have as much jumper sitting in my lap while I'm working on that. So I'm, as you can see, I didn't even remove the waist yarn that was holding it. I am knitting this in Sublime Evie in the color Plume, and I have used this yarn before in a light blue colorway to knit my Sadness jumper by Kate Heppel. It has a different name, but it is the Sadness jumper. It is the jumper she knit to look like Sadness from Pixar's Inside Out, and it's wonderful. And I knit it as a Halloween costume a couple of years ago, and I love the yarn. It's a cotton, and it's one of the ones where it's in the net and then they blow the fibers in, so it's super soft and fluffy and light. And this one is, it's a cotton yarn in a bright color. I love bright colors. I am willing to love summer yarns, but summer yarns mostly come in summer colors, which don't suit me as well as winter colors. So I'm very happy. The yarn has been discontinued. I bought that in a going out of business, well, not a going out of business, a discontinued sale. And I just bought the same amount of yarn I had needed for the Sadness jumper I knit, which was a shawl collar, long sleeve, faux cables down the sides, and A-line. So it took a lot of yarn for a jumper. I just ordered the same amount of balls, and then I figured I'd have time to figure out what I want to knit with it. So I'm just going to make this a super cozy, oversized, snuggly, wonderful, because this is such a soft yarn, and it's not like cotton that normally doesn't stretch. This actually feels nice to knit with. So I've got that on the needles. I've worked on that a lot, as you can see. Mostly I've been working on the other project that I'm not telling you about, but the knitting time, I've spent a lot of time on that. One of the things is, since last we spoke, I had hurt my wrist. I was cutting out a pattern. I'd spread the fabric on the floor, lined up the pieces, moved things around, lined up the pieces again, pinned it, cut it out, and couldn't use, like, the weight of being on my hands and knees triggered tendonitis in my wrist to have a really bad flare-up. So I basically could not use my left hand for anything for a week. So I wasn't knitting, so I was working on this other thing. But yeah, worked a lot on this. So that is my Sublime Evie V-neck simple pullover. Again, It's a free pattern. The instructions are very pared down though. It's basically just the numbers. Like at one point it says put the sleeve stitches on a hold. And I'm thinking, like, did they actually explain which ones are the sleeve stitches and which ones aren't? And it's pretty vague. If you've knit a jumper before, you'll know which ones. But if you haven't, you might be confused. So if you haven't, this is not a good first jumper pattern. It is not meant to be a good first jumper pattern. But if you know your way around a jumper vaguely, then you'll be fine. And my other project for this week is another new one, which is, Inorgaknit is the name of the person whose pattern this is, and these are the kitty ankle socks, which I'm making just a little longer. This is knit in one size, which is 64 stitches, so I'm using small needles and making them for my 7-year-old. My 7.5-year-old is obsessed with cats, and her school color is purple, so they wear gray and purple uniforms. And I figure with her little Mary Jane shoes for school, you might be able to just see the cat face. So I'm doing them both as gray with a purple background, and then when there are whiskers around the nose, that'll really pull the pattern together. So this is just a little intarsia cat face, and I knit all of like up to just past the ears in one day. And we've tried them on. I've done a little short row garter stitch heel. So yeah, I've knit almost one full sock in like 2 days for my 7-year-old, and she's very excited to have kitty socks. So yeah, those are my works in progress. And then I do have a, what do they say, needle adjacent, I can't get that back in, a needle adjacent project, which I don't normally talk about because what I'm going to knit next plans tend to fluctuate wildly between the I want to knit that and I've actually started knitting it. But the latest issue of Knit Now magazine contains this little pamphlet for a Pusheen jumper, and it is adult sizes, but my 7-year-old is completely obsessed with Pusheen. And if you meet her, she will move the conversation around to Pusheen. So it's just very cute, and I ordered the yarn for this. The Knit Now magazine also includes a code for wool, for a discount on wool warehouse. I can speak honestly. So I ordered, it's Cygnet Chunky, 7 skeins, 4 of the pink, and then 1 each of the taupe, the dark brown, and the dark gray. So I'm going to knit her a Pusheen jumper. I probably have to make the sleeves a little shorter, but otherwise I'll just knit it straight up and down. I don't know if it even has waist shaping, but if it does, I don't think it does. So it's just a straight up and down one. It will be fine for my 7-year-old. It might be a bit oversized and everything, and then she will just have a snuggly jumper that hopefully will last her a long time. It's getting a bit windy out there. So yeah, the yarn for that just came today. I've got it, I don't want to do the crinkly bag, but I've got, there's the brown, the gray, the taupe, and 4 bags of pink. It came while my husband was having lunch here with me. We tend to eat lunch out in the conservatory when the children are at school, and the postie, we didn't hear the bell from the other end of the house, so he walked around, and I'm like, guess what's in here? My husband's like, is it wool? And I guess technically it isn't, but it is yarn. I'm like, well, yes, but guess what I'm going to make with it? And he's like, something that you make out of yarn. So I showed him, I had the pattern here because I was going to tell you I'd ordered it, and now it has arrived, so it's on my short list of things to knit. But yeah, I showed him and he was just like, wow, that's wow. But he knows how obsessed our 7-year-old is with Pusheen, so that will be absolutely wonderful for her. That parcel also includes some Adia cloth for cross stitching and some threads that I picked up for a project I'm hoping to start soon. While in the subject of acquisitions, I have ordered a mini set. These are 5 20-gram minis from Bumbling Yarn, also known as Crafter's Balm, also known as The Lonely Knitter. She's got a podcast here on YouTube, The Lonely Knitter. Laura, The Lonely Knitter. So it's her logo with the knitting bee, and then it's these cute, really pretty, springy, pastel-y colors. Candy colors, really, almost. This one's not really very pastel, but these kind of candy pinks and blues and purples. And then I also got a set of 10-gram scrappy blanket balls, which are already wound up, and I've already started using them in my scrappy blanket, so I don't have them here to show. But they're just a variety of colors, and right now on the Crafter's Balm website, you can sign up for September. She's sending out a pack of little scrappy minis. She's just started dyeing, just, you know, in her little shed that she had built for Crafter's Balm. So she's just trying a few small things, and I'm a sucker for minis and scrappy packs for blankets. And so yeah, I went ahead and I got those, and I've signed up for now it's a September club. Lots of minis for my blanket, and they're lots of different colors, so they can all go in my blanket, like different dyeing techniques. She's just experimenting, so it's kind of all over. What you get can be very different from ball to ball, and it's just fun to support someone and get cute yarn for my blanket. So that's acquisitions. Sewing, I finished a top. I will go ahead and pause the video really quick so I can insert the picture. I know some people can just insert things. I can't do that. That is not me. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I might, because in the last couple of videos I've been editing out all the interruptions from my children. So I'm pretty sure it would just be like that. Let's try it. See, I sewed after having worked my wrist over 1 week. The following Tuesday, I was able to get it sewn together. Tuesdays are my day that my 3-year-old is in nursery all day, so that's my day to get things done. So 1 week I cut out the fabric, and the next week I sewed the pattern together, and I made a Montrose top from KIRRMAIER, and they specialize in plus size patterns for fuller cup sizes. And they actually just sent out an email, I think yesterday, saying that they're hoping to expand their range to smaller sizes, starting at a 0 and going up to their current 32, I think is their largest dress size. And so they're going to have 2 blocks, so you can either get the 0 to 16 or the 12 to 32, because, as she said, in the time since they started the company, other sewing patterns are starting to get on board. The whole, like, fat people exist and will pay money for patterns, and, like, if you're selling patterns, then money is a good thing. Like, people buying it is a good thing. So other dressmaker patterns, clothes patterns are starting to come, some of them in a larger range of sizes, but there aren't a lot of pattern companies that have different cup sizes, that have drafted for different cup sizes. So full, skinny, like thin, full busted women and other people still need full busted patterns. So they are expanding to smaller sizes, though she promises they will continue to use plus size models, and that'll definitely be a concentration, something that they are very firmly behind as a company. So yeah, if you are a skinnier busty person watching some of these cashmerette patterns going, oh, that looks great. I wish that came in my size. Good news, it soon will. So I made the cashmerette top, and the size I made is wrong. I made it based on like my, they do full bust and under bust, waist and hips. And so I lined up those sizes, and for that I am a 24 CD, which is ridiculous because the difference between my upper bust and my full bust is a full 5 inches. That's a lot of inches difference. So yeah, the next one I'm going to do will be the 22 GH, I think is what it is. You can't really see it because it's a black top with a floral print, but the shoulder seams, instead of being like on the top of my shoulder, are a fair bit down the side. It is pulling weirdly across my bust while still being oversized. So yeah, for a first pattern, hey, it fits. It goes over my head, it goes around my body, and that's wonderful. I did stretch the neckline out a bit, so I just need to watch that on the next one, but it is something I can wear out in public. I wore it out in public. And my red Rosemaran cardigan that I knit donkeys ago, when my 7-year-old was a baby, that one looks really good over it. It's got the same kind of red, that really vibrant red. So yeah, that is a successful make. It is not a wad it up and throw it in the corner, but it is not the size I will be making for the next one. So hopefully the next one, which I thought about working on today, but then I thought, no, I really need to do the blog or the podcast. Yeah, so that's coming along. I have not worked on my quilt since last I showed the quilt. Family news, basically just that we have all had this cold. Catherine came home with it, the 3-year-old came home with it from nursery. She was crying Friday night. She didn't want to go to bed, so she was crying, and she was crying a lot more than one would normally expect, but I figured she was just tired from a long week at nursery. But she was also really, really snotty with it, and then cat fluff. It's on my nose and it tickles. Then like in the morning she was coughing a bit and really congested, so, and slightly warm to the touch, and then that night she was quite warm to the touch sleeping that night, and I slathered her in Vicks and, you know, let her sleep kind of propped up on me so that everything now I'm getting cat hair in my mouth. Oliver, you're too fluffy. But yeah, so she was poorly overnight, and then on the Sunday, like my husband and I started feeling pretty groggy, and then the Monday, my 7-year-old Christina started feeling a bit groggy, but she said she just had a runny nose, so I sent her to school anyway and kept the 3-year-old home because she had a bit of a fever over the weekend, and she was running around and completely did not need to be kept home. But Christina came home and was like, I really don't feel great. I want to stay home tomorrow. And I said, well, we'll see how you feel in the morning. And in the morning she said, I really don't feel well. And since my husband and I feel like we've got plague or something, we're like, okay, I believe you. And then Catherine had woken up and had a big coughing fit first thing. So I called them both out of school. And then they were both fine, especially Catherine. Catherine absolutely did not need to stay home. I think it was just she woke up and, you know, was clearing the pipes because she did not cough the rest of the day. So today I shooed them both back to school, and they both went willingly. They were both bored at home with me not being like, every time they're like, let's go do this thing, and I'm like, I feel terrible. I don't have any energy. I'm just gonna sit here and, you know, drink tea and try to think not feeling terrible thoughts, you know, like rest and everything. I'm like, one of us is actually really poorly. So yeah, today I packed them off to school and they went quite willingly, Catherine in particular, with big smiles, lots of enthusiasm, very excited to see her friends again. So yeah, and if you're wondering how people are doing with having this cold, Christina did say that 5 kids were out on Monday, 5 of her classmates. There's 29 kids in her class, and 5 of them, do you see that just floating across? There's so much cat fur in here. If you are allergic to cats, our house is not the place to visit. But yeah, she said 5 kids were out, and I presume with the cold, the across the street neighbors have 2 little boys, one of whom is Christina's age, and one is just like, they're just between my kids in age, and they were both home with, you know, their mom said they were coughing and stuff. So I think this is the first cold, 3 weeks in. People are saying, oh, my kid's not well, I will keep them home, which makes me feel good about, you know, the schools being reopened here in Scotland. If people are saying, you know, like, if my kid has a cold, I will keep them home, then that's good. That's responsible. It's hard to keep kids home, especially when they just spend the whole day running around and being like, I'm bored, entertain me. And that's assuming you don't even have a job to go to, because if you have a job you're supposed to be at, and instead you're watching your kids, that's even more difficult, and that is a very real thing. So I'm just checking Oliver's paw. Like I said, we're really lucky that come this pandemic, we have the lifestyle we do. So it's easy for us to stay home. It's easy for us to keep our children home. We can have things delivered, not a problem. And there isn't a lot of coronavirus in the area. So we can do all this stuff. You know, when we do need to go out and do stuff, it's relatively safe to do. Stay home, wear a mask. Tune in next week for who knows what. But let me just say, I'm gonna say goodbye, Oliver. Come here, come here, come here, Gingy. Look. There we go. Yes, you do not look thrilled. That's just his face. He has a sad, grumpy face. He always looks at least a little terrified. The other one always looks a little bit irritated. Look. Default expression. Oliver's is. Yeah. I will talk to you again hopefully in 2 weeks. Hopefully I'll be able to record on the Tuesday, and I haven't completely jinxed myself forever that all of my Tuesdays will be ruined in some way or another for podcasting purposes. You've got fluff on your paw. You do. You have something stuck there. I'm going to go before this turns into the baby talking at my cat video. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Bye.